Hey everybody, welcome back to Mining Modern. I'm Corbin Hustler, and this is something I didn't think I would ever do, but I'm doing it. I'm adding green to Merfolk in Modern. Now, hopefully you saw my standard Merfolk videos last week. If not, you should go check them out. But one of the things I picked up while I was mining standard with Merfolk to try to make it work is, well, the deck's probably not going to be a standard powerhouse, but also Merfolk Branchwalker. This little 2-drop here that was kind of snuck into the spoiler late in the game. Is incredible. It's well known, I think, that, you know, for at least people who follow my Merfolk exploits, that Silvergill Adept is my favorite card. It's the best deck in Merfolk. I'm sorry, it's the best card in the deck of Merfolk. It is the thing that makes the deck work. Between Spreading Seas and Silvergill Adept, you draw enough cards, you just keep the pressure and the gas coming. And I've gone on record saying that Modern Merfolk would not be a deck if it were not for Silvergill Adept. Well, now we have 8 of them. And sometimes that's the worst case scenario. So Silvergill Adept draws your card when it comes into play. Great, it's a 2-1. Merfolk Branchwalker sometimes will be a Silvergill Adept, where it will be a 2-1 that draws you a card. But sometimes it's a 3-2 that has Scry 1 stapled to it. And when you start to look at Explore that way, not as, oh, it's either this or this and I don't have control over it, but just Silvergill Adept, the best card in the deck, is one half, and the other half is a 3-2 for 2 that has Scry 1 stapled to it. That's really strong. That's incredible. I didn't think that Merfolk in Modern, the green would be worth it. There are certainly trade-offs. We can't play Master Voyage, which is a very powerful card on its own, but now you're playing green cards, it gets a lot worse. You have to play things like Botanical Sanctum, which can be awkward. You have to play a fetch land mana base, which is a big deal, especially with Scapeshift in the format. Taking yourself down to 18 life represents a full turn against a Scapeshift deck. So there are most certainly trade-offs to going green, but I think that Branchwalker and Kumina's Speaker here, just a 2-2 for 1, are worth it. Now, you'll notice I don't have Collected Company in this deck, and I know everyone thinks that it's very good at Merfolk, but the truth is, this is something that has been discussed a lot, sort of in the Merfolk communities, and a lot of really good players. Shout out to Merfolk Joe here from Reddit, who's done a lot of testing with this, as have I. Collected Company in Merfolk, even when you were just playing Collected Company and you didn't have green Merfolk in the deck, wasn't that great because you didn't have a lot of 3-drops to hit with it, which is where Collected Company really shines. We have a bunch of 2-drops. And yeah, it's a 2-for-1 most of the time, but sometimes that 2 cards you get off of it aren't that good, and you paid 4 mana for it, and you took your tempo deck and you made your Ether Vials worse by playing it. You put more 4-drops into your deck, which was awkward. It didn't play well with Master of Waves, so on and so forth. It just wasn't as good as you ever wanted it to be, or as you thought it would be. So it seems weird that we're adding green and we're not playing Collected Company. And I thought about putting it in here because I figured people are going to watch these videos and they're going to expect there to be Collected Company, and they might be upset when it's not here. But I honestly believe, after playing with Collected Company Merfolk before and after Ixalan, and, you know, I've put in a lot of years with this deck and understand how it works, I don't think that that's the best build of the deck. I think if you're playing green, what we have here is pretty close to the best build. And now, this is not to say that the green is better than the mono blue version, because I think that is still up in the air, but I do know that there are some benefits that come with it. So let's go ahead and walk through the deck. I know that was going pretty deep on Merfolk theory here, but the changes essentially are we cut some Mirror Regeries and we cut Master of Waves. We added Merfolk Branchwalker, which is great. We added Kumina's Speaker. It's another 1-drop. It makes your vials better. You now have 8 1-drops, 12 with the vials. You really are able to go vial, then play a 2-drop, vial in a 1-drop, vial in a 2-drop, play a 2 or 3-drop, so on and so forth. Now, this deck is running 18 lands here. It might be better off as 19. The old versions of the deck ran 20, but now we don't have any 4-drops in the deck. You can get away, and you have more card draw too. You can get away with 19 for sure, and it's possible we can play 18, and that's what I'm going to give a shot here. We only have 4 3-drops in the entire deck now. And Kapala is the other new addition here. I have a 1-1 split with Kira. It's also my belief that Kapala is worse than Kira. Kira is always a 2-for-1 against every card in the format except Abrupt Decay when they're using spot removal. Kapala is not. Kapala will have benefits in situations where it's better than Kira. Of course, it is a Merfolk. It will get pumped by our Merfolk lords, and Kira never will. But on the other hand, its ability is, I think, worse than Kira, and it doesn't fly. So it's kind of a trade-off. But I think what's maybe ideal is a 1-1 split, because for one, if you ever get both of them into play, that's just absolutely nutty. But now you get to remove the legendary drawback from either one of them if you were going with two of them. And there's even some metas where you don't want this effect at all. You don't want this Kira or Kapala effect. But I do think that it's powerful, and I think a 1-1 split's probably correct. Now, we've cut on Lords here. We don't have... I always ran the full 12 in my list with the Mirror Regeries as well. We're not doing that. We're only running 2 Mirror Regeries, so... But we make up for it by one, just having more powerful early cards. But these are sort of bigger on their own, so... This is the deck. There's also the one Smuggler's Copter in here. This is the other new tech in Merfolk that helps smooth out your draws in the late game. And I've tried a lot of different things in this spot. I ran Thassa for a long time because Thassa allowed you to scry and made stuff unblockable and was sometimes just a 5/5 and all this really cool stuff. And then I even ran Monastery Siege because it could sometimes provide this Kapala effect for a 3-drop, but it could also just allow you to loot and really grind out decks. But Copter is the best version of that effect the deck has found, and it's great. It's a 2-drop, it can be crewed by anything, and we now have more 1-drops to crew it. Good in the early game, flies, which is pretty relevant in a lot of matchups, and smooths out your draws late. So this version of the deck here keeps the pressure coming. It beats down, and it doesn't really... what it sacrifices is the just pure late game power of Master of Waves. But other than that, it doesn't really lose anything from the mono blue version of the build, and we just gain some more powerful cards here. It is possible that you only want, you know, maybe you want the 19th land. Maybe you, instead of Kira and Kapala, you just want one of them, you want another Mirror Regery. That's the thing I'm most... I would say concerned about with this build of the deck is we have more cards that in the late game kind of do nothing if you get behind, like Kumena's Speaker, instead of Master of Waves. It basically comes down to Master of Waves because Master of Waves won a lot of games on its own, very powerful Magic card. But it is worse than it's ever been because Fatal Push exists, and it goes down quite a bit to that. And, you know, these red-based Jund deck. Lightning Bolt is no longer the premier removal spell of the format, I think. I think it's possible that Fatal Push is. But regardless of whether, you know, Lightning Bolt is 1, 2, or 3 on the Fatal Push Path to Exile Lightning Bolt list, it's no longer number 1 all by itself all the time, and therefore Master of Waves is worse than it's been. So while the card is very powerful and won a lot of games on its own, it is reasonable, I think, to at least test out cutting it. So that's how we've arrived with where we're at here. I know it was a pretty somber analysis of Merfolk, but I know a lot about this deck, and I play this deck a lot, and I love this deck, so I'm excited to try to make this work, so we'll see here. The other thing that green does for us is we get Natural State in the sideboard, and you will recall how atrocious the Affinity matchup is. Now we have Natural State. Great against Affinity, deals with any ensnaring bridges or whatever you might have to worry about. Does a lot, just having this in the sideboard is great. Now I've thought about Feed the Clan or something to get you more life gain in your matchup against Burn, because Burn matchup is one of those that probably gets a lot worse because you have to deal yourself some damage by fetching, but either way, Natural State's great. Moving on from that, Ceremonious Rejection for all the Eldrazi and Tron decks. Dispel for the combo decks, Control sometimes, etc. Negates for where you just really need that hard counter. And the playset of Relic of Progenitus for your Tarmogoyf, Delirium, etc. Dredge decks. So that's the deck, Simic Merfolk. I'm excited to see how this goes because we're in uncharted waters here. So let's give it a shot. I'm Corbin Hossoway. This is Mining Modern. Thank you for watching.